we are live today. We have a next Hucolo Saturday webinar, and we're discussing the telepathy tapes. And for those who watch us in, actually nobody watches us in Facebook, wrong thing. You can find how do you call it? The link, Zoom link on maxrempel.com. And actually, I think I have it here. Yeah, nope. Let me see. Almost there. Like, okay, now I should be able to see. Nearly. And little there. It doesn't. The how do you call it? The margins are wrong. I'll make it a little tinier, and then later I will fix the margins. Maybe that. Finally, maxrempel.com is there. Anyway, so if you go there, you can get Zoom link. And I have with me Shakti, Howeth, and David Latherington. Welcome, Shakti. Welcome, David. How are you?
Thank you.
Good.
So that's our next episode. We discussed the telepathy tapes. I think we did 3, so that would be likely 4th. Is it right, Shakti?
I think this is 3 or 4.
Yeah, we don't remember. Maybe, yeah, one of those. And they all can be found on hucolo.org. And I guess I will type it. You can find us on hucolo.org, and there are the link to YouTube channel, all the episodes. And Hucolo stands for Human Colony. And David was there early on. And now Human Colony channel is about 12 years. Yeah, 12 years, nearly 12 years. Yeah, something like that. Maybe it will be 12 years in the fall, in September. So it's 11 years. And the biggest event happened, the Telepathy tapes by Dickens came out, I guess. And for those who don't know, I will type it in. The Telepathy tapes by Dickens. And you can find them on YouTube, on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere for free. And now they started the 2nd season, which is called Talk Tracks. So it's roughly half an hour per episode, 10 episodes, telepathy tapes. And tomorrow, the 6th episode of Talk Tracks come out, and every episode is huge. So it's a big event in human history. And I will let Shakti summarize it. Go ahead.
Okay, well, so the Telepathy Tapes is a podcast that follows the work of Dr. Diana Hennessy Powell, who has been researching savants and nonverbal autistics for, I think, something like decades, but I'm not actually sure how long. And then Kai Dickens.
I say since 90s for sure.
Okay.
And she is public for last about 15 years. She is public about that.
Yeah, and she's had to deal with a lot of pushback from various communities who are critical of her work and also critical of nonverbal autistic folks using devices to assist them in communication. So that's been kind of the political side of what she's had to deal with. And then Kai Dickens, this documentary filmmaker, got a hold of this story and started following this work, and specifically a few different families who had their own experience with their kids where they started to realize something's going on here. These kids are telepathic. But once they started digging into that, they found out so much more. So basically, this whole show is exploring through following these families and their individual and, group journeys, because some of them are friends with each other. They're discovering that beyond just telepathy, these people are expressing different functions of consciousness that some people call psi phenomena. So, like, there's some of them talk to people who have gone into the afterlife or are no longer in their body living in this world, or they're able to connect with non-physical entities and maybe something like what people call angels, and maybe some of them even have healing abilities. So it's kind of this whole can of worms, but the beginning is just tracking the telepathy because it's something that they can easily prove, and it's just blowing everybody's minds.
Ooh. You can move the camera down a bit, but that's great. So, should I add anything? Okay, my take is obviously like I come from Russia, and I left Russia when I was 32 in '96. So for 30 years, I was brainwashed into revolution culture. So revolution was huge. So everybody was supposed to be a revolutionary, not just not make a revolution in Russia, but like in the world, like bringing the communist revolution to the world. That was the main idea. So what happens is a peaceful revolution, telepathic. Doing this, the math, statistics, roughly what they discovered is that autistic people, children and adults, are telepathic, usually if they are non-speaking. The word non-verbal was perfect until they started typing. So they became verbal sort of typing, but not using voice for speaking. That's cool. And roughly there is about 1 million of them on a planet. I think I forgot the math, but I think 1 in 300 or something like that. So there is and the key is that they talk to each other remotely with high precision, ease. They easily talk to each other. It's much harder for them to type rather than to telepathically talk to each other. And they connect in groups of several people, kind of. They have clubs, and they can introduce each other to each other. So I'm watching now. It's called the bee. Hold on. Can I do that? Let me try. Yeah, it works. Uh, let's be telepathy on YouTube. Cool. So it's easy to find. Let's be telepathy on YouTube, and there, like in real time, a group is communicating, and Adriana and Noah is a non-speaking telepath who introduces other telepaths to the group, and he collects people together. Hey, come together in the astral, and then there is a channeler medium. There should be a new name, but essentially mind reader who is vocal, who connects to Noah, and Noah speaks through her. So it's sort of a channeling session. So essentially, they can just come together in the astral and then translate it to vocal language online in real time. And it's very believable. I take it as very real, super real. So their revolution happens in a peaceful way because these nonverbal people are unplugged from the society, and they are actually, they have to be super peaceful to be functional. They have to be loving and non-selfish, non-egotistic. And there is more of them. It looks like every 8 years the number of them doubles. So 1 million becomes 2 million, becomes 4 million, and they started teaching. They used to teach normal people, vocal people, telepathy, and now they do it with. We have Adriana.
I just allowed her in.
Oh, great. Yeah. Hey, Adriana, welcome. So they teach vocal people to read to telepathically connect, and teachers of and caregivers of autists they learn telepathy, and so pretty much it's open to everyone. It's just a switch of the it's a learning process. It's like meditation but different. And with that, I offer the microphone to David for your reflections.
on this. So I would say that if I had to call myself a little bit autistic, I would say that I'm also a little bit autistic, but I don't know if my parents would agree. But I've noticed as an adult that I have a small degree of that. But I also work in the with telepathy constantly with higher dimensionals. Um, I've done it less often with humans than I have with galactics and higher dimensional beings. But every Monday, I get together with a group of people in the school, and we practice telepathy on the Athena ship with the Galactic Federation of Light. So I think that's completely possible that this could be occurring in nonverbal autistic people. Um, it takes a while to build up your psychic facilities. Let's just say, like, first you have to find out what your stronger clair is, and then you'll have to refine that a little bit to be able to receive telepathy. Telepathy kind of uses your clair abilities, whatever one is strongest for the most part. And then if you have more than one clair that's stronger, it will use that as well to give you a more well-rounded, multi-dimensional telepathy. And if you're an empath, then you have another layer of that again, which would create telepathy, more or less, which is a much deeper form of telepathy. I think it's very possible that these people could be forming telepathic collective consciousnesses and working together within the collectives to talk to each other.
Okay, how do you teach?
Well, it's more or less going over protection protocols. And then once you psychically ground, you connect with universal energy. We have a few mantras that essentially protect us from beings that don't serve our highest and greatest good. Any being that wishes to harm us or our friends in the collective, that we're protected against that. And any being that is dishonest or untruthful, we don't allow into our, let's say, our where we're going on the ship. So these are essentially our parameters of what we permit to communicate with us telepathically when we're doing our astral projection or telepathy to the ship. And once we go there, since it's a rainbow ship, it's multidimensional, and whatever dimension you're comfortable at, that's what dimension and range of beings that we're going to be communicating with.
So the first question, if I want to go into next question, if I want to go to meditation, what would be the key word to bring me there?
If you're in the state of meditation, you want to go to the ship,
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it
Uh-huh.
unless you're
Okay.
with a group of people that are comfortable with the frequency of the ship. Because one thing I've been noticing is that sometimes with telepathy, people will try to reach to a certain place, but if they're not as refined as they need to be to dial into that particular frequency, then they'll miss. And if
Okay.
they miss, they might find themselves speaking with a more ambivalent or malevolent being
Okay.
because perhaps they don't have strong boundaries, they don't know the protection protocols. So missing is very popular and common, and with especially with new members, we have more expert telepaths who kind of grab them out of the astral and bring them back to the ship if they wander too far away. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you're with a group because
Okay.
Yeah.
It's great, but it sounds a bit restrictive. So can you give some advice to people who cannot join your group but want to use your methods themselves? Is there like some address where you could send them to join to connect?
We don't have that resource built yet, but I'm working on some protocols for people so that the mainstream can learn telepathy because that's one of my goals.
Let's develop it now. So, can you give some sort of, is there like a selection committee or selection room where we can come and meet like their welcoming party or something?
Well, typically, if like I see consciousness levels in people, and if someone's above the fourth dimension, then they have access to psychic abilities. Um, so typically, you want someone that's tapping into the fourth dimensional range, because that means that they're going to be using clair abilities. Whereas if you get a lower dimensional person, they might just be more NPC, like more just go to work, come back from work, watch the sports game, and this is their life, rinse and repeat, more or less.
What's NPC?
This is going to get complex. Non-playable character. So
Oh, I
essentially,
see. Yeah.
yes, okay.
Muggles.
Muggles, yes.
All right, Shakti, your microphone.
Yes. You have
Just
a question?
same thing. How can we learn telepathy? Where to go? What's the protocol? What's your take?
Okay, so my take is I'm coming at this from a few different angles, my own personal experiences and my research, which is just reading books about things like remote viewing. So I've been researching anomalous phenomena from like a really practical lens for a long time, but I've also had a lot of like really unusual experiences, and I'm trying to bridge those things. And in my own personal experiences, I've found that telepathy comes in little flashes at different moments in life for different people, based on what's going on chemically, emotionally, and energetically. So, for example, we talked about like love being a really strong energy that can push people into that state. So, maybe in like a mother child connection, telepathy can occur from time to time, but we don't really think of it as telepathy because it's not consistent and repeatable. It just happens once and you think like, whoa, my mom, how did she know that? Or why was my intuition strong this day but not on another? And I think this is really important because this is what most of us are likely to experience. And I think if we can start tuning into that, that's level one of beginning to just tune to the frequency of what's going on in order to either recognize when it's happening more or be able to cultivate it. I think it can happen with our pets and animals, like they explore on the podcast. But again, it's not usually repeatable or consistent as much as we would like it to be. And so, in my research looking at remote viewing, that's one area where people have created protocols to get that repeatable effect. So I think there's telepathy with non-physical entities, which seems to be more accessible to a lot of us, probably because we can't verify it. For better or for worse, it allows us to kind of open our mind and reach this other state more easily. But we don't really necessarily have evidence to say that's really happening and it's not just my imagination. So it's tricky, even though I do believe that that is happening in a lot of cases. And it is possible because you can take the quality of the message and apply it to your life, and that usually yields a good result. And that feels like a kind of evidence, but it's not like the scientific evidence that a lot of people demand when they want to understand these things. And so this group of people that we can do testing on is pretty interesting because not only does it spark the imagination in so many of us, but it allows people to it allows the analytical mind to grab onto something. And I think that's one piece of the puzzle that's just important for us to move forward. But in terms of learning it, I think it's a really subtle, soft skill. And just like any language, we're all going to speak differently and we're going to either understand each other or not at any given moment for so many different reasons. So there's so many factors. I think telepathy might be similar. Like you mentioned, all the different clairs and how we have different predominant extra senses. I think that some of those extra senses are going to be stronger in some people based on like their life experience or their genetics or their predispositions, and leaning into the one that feels most natural could be a good starting point.
David, you
Come
want to
closer.
respond?
I think that's well said. I believe that there is one thing that we can add to help with the understanding of telepathy to get there more easily for people. I've learned over the years that if you're in the fight or flight state, the sympathetic nervous system, then you're in the stress state. And if your mind is in this stress state, it's much more difficult to do telepathy. It's much more difficult to do psychic work, channeling, mediumship, whatever. But if you can get into the rest and digest state, the parasympathetic nervous system, where you take several deep breaths, like for example, right when you're in the shower or when you're on the toilet about to have that's the best time when most people get their psychic messages, I would say. And that's because they're in this parasympathetic nervous system, and that opens you up psychically. So I would recommend that for anyone.
I mean, it's interesting that you haven't seen the telepathy tapes and you say that because they do talk about that in one of the episodes. And basically, the kids, if they feel overloaded or if they're out in a public place and they feel like they're getting bombarded with a lot of negativity and negative thoughts and they just feel overstimulated, it makes it harder for them to access their abilities. So that is something that there is being discussed right now. And I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I think lots of things which we hear in telepathy tapes now, when I dig deeper, I find lots of components of that published way before then. So telepathy was around forever, and 100 years ago, Carl Jung said that for those who pay attention, telepathy is already proven. And so the experimenters were, even Carl Jung and experimenters at that time. There was, by the way, Russian experiments with Pavlov and Durov, telepathy with animals and stuff. Just to give it some example, I was, after the telepathy tapes episode about animal telepathy came out, I started immediately trying telepathy on a dog. We had a guest dog, and I was walking the dog, and he was very interested, sniffing things around. We were walking through the nature, and I thought, let me send some meaningful message. And I said, just look at me, just look at me. And I said it in English and in Russian. I was kind of sending the message, and it didn't work for a few minutes, and then it did. He looked at me, surprisingly, and looked at me again. And next 5 minutes he was looking at me. So I looked at you. What's the point? He was like very surprised. Why do you bother me? Like, it's so much interest in here, and why should I look at you? So that was very clear. He was very upset, like that I'm bothering him with nonsense. But the message, he received the message just fine. So the messages usually have to make sense and be justified, and I would say what's that word, when it's somebody agrees to receive them, consensual. So we have Adriana and Wendy. Let's try. Adriana, do you want to speak up or to just type your question?
Good morning. Sorry, it's early on the West Coast. I was wondering what role you guys feel, if you could talk about alexithymia and introception, what role you think those things play in all of this?
I have no clue what alexithymia is.
Yeah, alexithymia is a very common symptom on the spectrum, and it is the inability to parse and express one's emotions. So, for example, someone might be feeling stressed and they're not aware of it. They just, might feel some chest tightness or something. And then once they feel the chest tightness, they don't know why they're feeling the chest tightness. And this can lead to emotional blow-ups. They also aren't able to say, okay, well, if I'm feeling chest tightness, then therefore I'm feeling stressed. I need to express myself to so and so or get myself out of this situation. So that's basically what it is. And then interoception is the inability to sense or express or parse what is going on inside one's own body.
Okay, super cool. Who wants to take it?
I have a take on this. And
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are experts on autism here, so we can only speculate. But what I could say is there's a theory by this man, Tom Campbell, and he talks a lot about like consciousness as this big thing that's outside of physical matter reality. And so I
Mhm.
think conditions like what you're speaking about have to do with the break between the body functions and the consciousness functions because our bodies obviously are we all come with different constraints, and so people that are far on that end of the autism spectrum, they have all kinds of different symptoms, but the ones you're talking about, it sounds to me like there are maybe like neurological things going on, physical things going on, and maybe mental constraints that are causing them to just function differently than we do. But their consciousness is unbounded in a way, like it goes beyond all of that. And so, what we're seeing in these kids who are able to meet remotely in places that are kind of like astral realms to some of us, what we call astral realms, it seems like when their consciousness is outside of their body, it's really operating at a higher level than what they're able to express because their physical functions are constraining them.
Mm.
And the I never knew the word for it, but a friend of mine who used to work with autistic kids and other disabled folks was telling me that one of his students didn't know how to respond emotionally to something. So he would say a joke and he would watch that person go through the Rolodex of every different emotion. It's almost like they're trying each one and then landing on the one that made sense, like based on what our society thinks you should do when someone tells a joke, you know? But it was funny because he would get angry, he would laugh, he would get kind of sad, he would go through all these different feelings. And then when he got to the right one that he knew logically was right, he would actually write it in his journal. Like, I knew how to laugh at a joke. I laughed at a joke today or something like that. So I think that's similar to the condition you were describing.
Super
Yeah,
cool.
that is very much one of the aspects of it. Yeah, the reason I bring it up is because it's so interesting that the contrast between telepathy, where they experience a very fluid communication and no difficulties in a sense with how they feel or any of those things, to the exact opposite in everyday life and the constrictions that it brings.
I can say a couple things on
Uh-huh.
that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I think that the brain offers limitations and the body offers limitations for us as conscious beings. And if we're able to escape the body, which is restricted, and enter into soul, then which is, consciousness more or less, we're not limited by the same restrictions. Like, for example, if I'm astral projecting onto a ship or whatnot, I can do backflips and I can do 7 backflips up in the air. I can do the moonwalk, but in real life, that can't happen. So there's just this part of yourself that you can explore consciously that you can't express physically. And I find that quite interesting. So this might be why they're doing that, to get around
Yeah.
perhaps a physical condition of the mind. Like perhaps a psychopath might have some more emotions in consciousness than they would in physicality in the same way, because that's a gray scale as well as autism, right?
Yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
Oh, no, I forgot my thought. Go ahead.
All right. So I wouldn't say that I'm not an expert in autism because I think my family with lots of kids we are borderline. We are functional, highly functional, but now I'm watching autists on actually Instagram. If you just look for autists on Instagram and YouTube, you can see them, you can connect to them. It's there are very popular accounts where just demonstrate the traits of autists. And I recognize my traits and the traits of others in my immediate surrounding. And actually, my friends, we are, in science, we are alien. We have a lot of alien experience, some of alien DNA, and that brings us to science. So I overwhelming with being overwhelmed with information. I think everyone in modern society is overwhelmed, but some are super well. And then ability to read at least emotions and minds and being overwhelmed by just being in a big group. Like I thrive on that energy, but I'm overwhelmed maybe in half an hour. And some of my close people are, run away in seconds if they're in big group. They just can't take the energy. And I was thinking it's curable, but it's not. If they're open, they're great with animals and plants, but among humans, if they read minds or at least feel the energy, it's like my job is to go to lectures, scientific lectures. I can survive there maybe for 10 minutes and then I run away. And imagine myself in school and college. In college, maybe I attended maybe 5% of lectures. I don't know how I survived there, but that's I couldn't take it. I just couldn't. It just was too much in the lectures. That was tough. And if I force myself, then a couple of days I have to recover after that. So it's a very real thing. Now the next question is, what do you do with it? Like, do you need to cultivate in yourself autistic traits to become telepathic? Do you need to be unable to connect to emotions? Do you need to be unable to function? Do you need to be unable to be in human presence of large groups to become telepathic? Is it exclusive? Can you be a functional human and telepathic, or you have to be somewhat non-functional to become telepathic? That's a hugest question.
Good one. Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I think that all humans have psychic abilities innately, and we lose them by the age of like 6 or 7 years old due to programming from the parents, perhaps due to fluoride, or other things that are contaminants essentially for the physicality.
While you're on fluoride, I'm finally installing the filter for fluoride. I already bought it. It's like today we'll get the last connector and we'll see if that helps my telepathy in any ways.
Hopefully. I can say, because I eat a lot of meat, that it's not a factor of meat. And a lot of people in the mainstream might say that you have to be vegan or whatever to be more psychic. But I can attest that that's not the case, because I was on a carnivore only diet for several months. And the vast majority of what I consume is meat right now, and it's not influencing it. And if anything, I've been able to reach higher dimensions because I'm eating a cleaner diet without processed foods and whatnot. So that's one thing I wanted to add, but I kind of lost my train of thought.
No. Yeah, it's the main question. How should you be? How autistic you should be to become telepathic? So diet. Else, being able to tolerate politics. I mean, that's the hugest nowadays.
I think I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest, Max. But like, for example, if I'm speaking in front of a group of people, that has always been my greatest terror. But now I speak in front of smaller groups of people quite often. And it's because of the empathy, right? Or clairsentience. We're feeling what the audience is feeling. And if they get uncomfortable or they go, ugh, at anything that you say, you feel that ugh inside of you, and it causes you to like have to process that emotion for the moment, which can make public speaking very difficult.
Oh, the cat. Yay.
Oh, cute
So
visitor.
the truth has come. So the cats are telepathic, and then they are carnivores. They're like super killers. Oh, by the way, my theory, unrelated to telepathy, my theory is that the cats actually breed mice. They breed mice, they don't kill them, they bring them home and make a colony, and then they have fresh meat anytime.
Good theory.
Oh, that's
right.
why they drag them home and they don't
They're
kill
farmers.
Exactly. They breed, they're farmers.
them.
I mean,
Interesting.
there is a lot of stored rice and stuff, and so the mice feed on that, and the cat feed on mice. I think it's farming.
So is it the chicken
That
or the
makes
egg?
sense.
Does the cat bring the mice, or do the mice bring the cat?
Ah. Okay.
Okay,
The rest of the webinar will discuss that.
I have a thought about your question, Max.
Uh-huh.
So going back to the telepathy tapes, because I remember in episode 3, somebody, I forget the name of the person, but one of the non-speaking autistic kids tells the mom, you can't get the kind of gifts I have if you lie. If you lie. And that really stood out to me because there are also teachings that I learned about in my upbringing, like from the Yoga Sutras and things like that, where they kind of encourage you to cultivate a truthful being in order to access higher powers. And so I don't think there's a one size fits all because, like you said, some people can be vegan and get better psychic powers. Some people can eat meat and do it. Some people can smoke cigarettes. Some people can't. Some people can, there's just there's so much variation. And I think that's great. I'm glad life is that way because it would be so boring if it wasn't. But I think there are certain things that we can try out and find out, does this protocol work for my person, So one of the ones that I'm really interested in is cultivating that truth. And I think that relates to autism because on the autism spectrum, what you have is a range of people who are either filtering or not filtering what they want to express, And so a lot of times people who don't have a lot of filter end up being diagnosed with like a kind of autism, or they used to call it God, what was it? What was their use Asperger's syndrome? Remember when it wasn't like a super pronounced fully autistic, but they're somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. And those people, a lot of times they're blunt. They don't know social niceties and they just say what they're thinking, or they'll just make an observation without recognizing that that might impact someone and emotionally and things like that. So I think that's one thing that all humans, no matter where you are on that spectrum, because we are all on it somewhere on it, I think we can all cultivate authenticity and like taking away our masks and our filters. And in my own experience, I feel that that has given me greater access to deeper understanding of other people, which I consider to be a kind of telepathy. That word telepathy that you said, I thought was really cool because I'd never
It's from
heard that.
Bashar.
I really like that word because that feels like exactly what I understand about myself. Like I know what people are feeling so easily, especially if I'm in the room with them. But even if I'm not, even if I think about them, I can sometimes feel what they're feeling, or that's my perception at least. And so I think that's a kind of telepathy that's not like verbal communication through the mind, but it's a deep understanding of a layer of information about what that person has going on in a given moment.
Yeah, I have that. I use it a lot in work relations. Like if there is something that is decided behind the walls, I don't see the results. I can feel it, and especially if it is important for my career and stuff. It's hard to call career, more like professional money making. Yeah, for money making. I can feel the decision way before it's communicated to me. I know it turned this way, it turned this way, and it takes my inner energy to sort of participate in that decision. But then I get just the confirmation. Sometimes they take me by surprise, but usually don't. Usually I can read minds, at least that. I don't read individual thoughts, but the whole idea is like how it tilts. I have very good sense of that. And when somebody is obsessed positively or negatively, that feels like one nice lady was considering me as a romantic partner recently, and she was appearing in front of me. I said, "Hey!" So that was very clear telepathic or whatever appearance. She would come with mine to me, and I was, hey. But then it was clear she stopped coming. There was no physical communication. It was just coming, thinking, gone.
Whenever she'd think about you, you'd get a visualization of her.
It's not fully visual, but it was very recognizable energy pattern, partly visual, partly something else. I usually not always visual. I'm not always visual, and certainly, yeah, one of the thing that is discussed everywhere, including telepathic tapes, is that you have to turn off your speech center. And Diane Hennessy Powell, the medical doctor, I think she MD, PhD, or maybe MD for sure. She says she discusses in her book some enigma. I forgot which enigma. I will type it in. Psychic enigma or something like that. ESP enigma by Dr. Powell. She discusses anatomy of the brain a lot, and right brain, left brain. So essentially, you have to turn off your speech thinking to become more telepathic. You have to think in some sort of other ways, non-vocal. In the mind, you shouldn't use vocal centers, and that is very strong on me. Like when my family members force me to speak when I'm not in a speaking mood, I would. Now, when I realized, I was very surprised. Or in yoga studio or in meditation, I cannot switch from meditation to speaking. It takes me. I have to get out to speak. So now I just explain to them, no, talk to me telepathically. I'm answering telepathically. Don't bother me. I don't want to speak. So India, Mahatma Gandhi, he had Mondays non-speaking. He would write, but he wouldn't speak. So he would communicate to people in writing, and that makes a lot of sense now.
I think there is something to what you were saying, Shakti, regarding truth and resonance. And something you were saying, Max, about the mask, and being able to see the intention of people behind the mask that they're actually revealing to you or showing you. Like, for example, for me, this happened a while ago. I was in Mexico, and I had my friend and I, it was dark out, and my friend had this wireless radio, and it's a bit of a story, but I'll make it short. Essentially, I knew that he wanted to take this radio, and we were walking for like 10 minutes to this buffet, and he was driving in a golf cart, the guy that worked at the resort. And he came up to us right before we were about to go into the buffet with his friend. His friend got off the car and he said, "Hey, can I see your radio?" And I told my friend before he got out that don't give this guy the radio. And he said, "Can I see this radio?" And my friend was like, looked at me like very weird, like, "Why did you just tell me that?" And then he asked, and then my friend said, "No, you can't see the radio." And then he reached out and tried to grab it. And I just looked at him and said, "My friend and I are very fast runners." And then they both ran away. Like one guy ran away and the other guy drove away on his cart. So I think part of telepathy is really tapping into the intention. And we can see behind the mask that people portray. Like if someone is fake, we can see through that, which is a really powerful tool. I think that's an empathic tool that essentially all empaths have. They can detect through bullshit, you might say, and they can tell when someone's lying, right? So, and we all need time to ourselves where we can recharge. Like Max, you were saying 3 days. I think that's a long time, but and it might help you to cut cords after speaking in front of a large group of people, because then you're separating energetically from all the people in the audience faster, and you're consciously using your will to cut those cords instead of having to just like let them naturally detach.
Okay. Wendy wanted to speak. Are you ready? Oh, Salesh also. Wendy or Salesh, whoever wants to
Oh,
speak.
go ahead, Salish.
Yes, hello. No, it's been very interesting so far, but the issue is I have to leave now, so I'll have to catch up on the replay. And thank you for the websites, Max. It's really appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen. and
Salesh, do you have
ladies.
telepathic experience?
Me personally, apart from the general reading of people's, just from looking at their face, I am able to ascertain their moods, whether they're positive or negative vibration. That's as far as I've got so far when it comes to telepathy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That's our common predicament. We are aware it's possible, and yet we want to be healthy, rich, happy, prosperous materially, and be respected by people. So that's a challenge. Do you have to abandon your muggle life to become a wizard?
No. But you might have to become more creative. Like, for example, I had to do that by creating a company. That was the only way that I could work as a Reiki or energy practitioner or psychic surgeon or whatever to make money. Or I created a school helping people to learn about this kind of stuff. For me, that was my avenue of escape, how I can use my abilities and also make money at the same time.
Can I put it on the screen? What do you want to advertise?
The federationoflight.com. If you check us out, that's our website. You might have to put in the exact link. It's
Yeah, just a sec.
Can I say something about what you just said also
Of
while you're
course.
typing it up? The
Of course.
creativity. I was thinking about this too, like not just creativity in your life, because I agree. We all have to make a living and we're all living in this reality and there's a lot to navigate. And I also spend a lot of time alone after being around people, so we all have that in common. And I do all kinds of things to like get my energy back to myself so that I can just figure out what's mine and what's other people's. But in terms of creativity, I was thinking about how when we approach telepathy, because the question Max is kind of asking over and over is like, well, how can anybody do this? Is what I'm hearing. Like, how do we get to the point where we can just do this or everyone can do it? And I think the answer is not cut and dry because this is almost like an art and not just a science, but an art. So if you think about dancing, for example, every single body is going to approach dancing in a different way. And there's different ways to become a great dancer. You could just condition all the time and get really strong, or you could take classes with a group and get really good at learning choreography, or you could just be a freestyle dancer where you're like, I do my own thing. I just put on my music and dance. And in the end, who's to say who's the better dancer? All those three pathways are leading these individuals into their own way of dancing. So I think with psychic abilities or psi abilities, it's more like a dance, it's more like an art than we're thinking of it as. And so it's about playing, I think, with all the different techniques that are out there. And the schools are really cool and the protocols and the different systems of studying these things. But in the end, it's such a personal thing. I think each one of us has to find our own way to that reality. And I think we have to kind of mix and match and try things out, and different things are going to work better for different people. What do you think of that, Max? Or
Max. No. Yes. I mean,
You don't agree?
your statement was so permissive that it became too general. You said, there are many paths to enlightenment. So you can go up, you can go straight, you can go down.
Max is a scientist. He thinks in one way, right? He likes
No,
things
no, no, no.
systematic and ordered.
Yeah, yes, that's called, how do you call it? In science, it's discrete. You have to split it in very precise categories. And maybe if there is something between the categories, you have to put it in a special category, which is in between. But where did I disagree was that I think we are the age of breakthrough, stage of breakthrough, and it wouldn't be that hard soon. I think we are coming to the place where it would be like. So I'm seeing that happening to. No, let me speak. Remember, hold your thought. We are at the stage where artificial intelligence. It was very hard for the first ones to break through, and now they pop like every day. The new company, new system would outperform, using very strict metrics, would outperform the previous ones. I watched them very closely. So today, like 2 days ago, Gemini 2.5 by Google outperformed the competitors by speed and everything else. So same thing should happen according to Sheldrake, the 100th monkey principle, 100th monkey. Essentially, when there is more people telepathic, it will be so much easier to switch. So there should be like, and the same thing with spelling. Spelling is typing, essentially. Teaching autistic, non-speaking, non-vocal telepath to type was hard in the past, but now it should be like super much easier. When everybody believes it's possible, you teach them. So I think we will have the methods where you just, do 10 steps and you become telepathic. So I think that's one way, one of very few ways will dominate. I don't know if I disagreed with you, but I think you said just the opposite.
Well, no, not the opposite, but I think what I'm saying is like, let's think of just learning a language because you speak multiple languages. So that's a great example, Like learning a language is the same thing where different people are going to go about it different ways. Somebody's going to sit in a classroom, someone else is going to go to YouTube and TikTok and they're going to learn from teachers online, and somebody else has like a partner who speaks the language and they're going to learn from them. The next person is learning from songs and TV or whatever it may be. So all I'm saying is like, even something as concrete as learning a language can be approached in so many different ways because we have different personalities. And so it's going to be a faster pathway for me to learn songs and watch TV shows and listen to people speaking in Spanish and watch little TikTok videos than it is for me to just read a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. David, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'll take the middle position, please. I think that your hypercreative methods and your hyperlogical methods can be combined together when you understand that the linear is like putting everything in boxes and only doing one thing at a time. But telepathy is actually a quantum process, meaning more than two processes up to an infinite amount of processes at the same time. We can't look at telepathy in a linear way, as it's not a linear thing, but we can break it down into chunks like Max is talking about. And we can understand that there's so many different platforms to develop your psi abilities, let's call them, like you're saying. So I think we have to look at it more or less with both perspectives and combine them together, because we have to become quantum beings to do a quantum action. And that is essentially telepathy.
Okay. Dave, I tried this the Federation of Flight.com and it doesn't work. It says maintenance mode. Is it the real one?
It's the real one. So Aaron and I are just currently working on it, but we just had the website down for one day.
Okay. Cool enough.
It's normally up.
Oh, yeah, Wendy, please.
Thank you. So yeah, I definitely agree with the dance theory that people have come in with innate abilities, some stronger, more gifted and some have to work a little harder to it. But can everybody dance? Yeah, everybody can dance. Can everybody learn, one or two moves? Yeah, of course. And I think it's the same way with telepathy. And I definitely feel that telepathy with the empathy part, that you're picking up on the empathetic vibration of the person, and then their thoughts are kind of like around them. And my experience has been that since I was a child, I think I was 6 years old when I had my first experience, and I literally heard in my head, "Where's your brother?" And it was very loud and it's very startling. And then from that point forward, anyway, there was a whole story behind that. I won't go into that. But I've had those experiences throughout my life where I just would know what people were thinking, and sometimes it was, oh hey, you're getting ready to lose your job, and so, but it allowed me time to prepare to, oh, if that's the vibe here, then I should maybe start looking for something somewhere else. And so it ended up giving me that time to prepare and be steps ahead. Also, I have noticed within, I think the last year really strongly, but the last 2 years, that I've noticed that other people in my associative group, family, friends, whatever, there's been more, hey, you're reading my mind kind of going on. And so we've all noticed that has been, coming up more and more. And while we were having the discussion about, how are you connecting in that? And I was listening to the conversation, but my husband came downstairs and then he made a face, turned around and went back upstairs, or to go back upstairs. And I turned and I said to him, I said, "Oh, you forgot your phone." I said that to him out loud, and he came back down and he's holding his phone in his hand. So being able to pick up on the thoughts that people are thinking, I don't know that you necessarily have to be like in a meditative state and, oh, I'm concentrating on picking up your information. But I think when you're tapping into your psychic abilities to any of your clairs, if you're focusing on developing any of your clairs, then the other clairs kind of also move into that higher level of consciousness, because I think that's what it is. I think it's being open to the consciousness of the people that are around. And I know also that whole like being around a large group of people, I noticed that I need my downtime afterwards too. And I do work with a lot of grounding that helps afterwards, the whole clearing your energy, whether you're working with the violet flame or whether you're cutting cords, any of that, and kind of pulling your energy back into yourself, because sometimes when you're out in a group of people, your awareness can be like, oh, what about this and this and this, and so you can have your kind of your energy spread all over the place. So kind of like a fishing pole, like kind of like reeling your energy back in. So it's like, this is my energy, your energy is yours, my energy is mine, kind of thing. That seems to really make a big difference, I think, for me. And then the other thing I've noticed too is that being in, like, say, a large crowd or something, that all the extra noise, same thing. I'm like, oh, like I can't be in here. But if I get in the now and I get into like joining the party kind of thing, where it's like, oh, everybody's talking, so I'm going to be talking too, or everybody's, dancing and, having a good time, then I'm going to do that too. And so if you're more participatory, I think in the now moment, that desire to like shut down, run away and not be involved, just leaves. And then knowing that, once you are back in like your own space, that's when you can kind of like regroup and, come back to balance, because I think that's really what it is, right? As you're just getting back to balance. But I have noticed that, like, sometimes when I'm on calls, that either myself or whoever I'm on a call with, like if a Zoom call like this, like with groups of people that we get together, like the channeling group we get together with, I'll say something and they'll be saying the same thing at the same time. Or I'll say something and they'll say, oh, I was just going to say that. Or they'll say something, I was like, oh, I was just going to say that. And so that experience is happening a lot. So I'm sure you guys are experiencing that too.
Mhm.
So
I think that if you spend more time with a group of people, you eventually join or create a collective consciousness just
Yeah, for
amongst
sure.
yourself in your little bubble. So I think that's a big part of that. And sometimes higher dimensionals or the gods or galactics or whatever, they give us information, and they might ask us to ask a question. So the whole group hears it, so that material is recorded. And whoever is the most sensitive at the moment will pick up on that message, and they'll ask that question as well. I think that happens quite a bit.
Yeah, and it was funny too, because Max, you were talking about your experience with sending the dog a message, and we're getting ready to have a new puppy come into the house, and it's probably going to be next week. We're going to pick him up, but anyway, after we visited him with with mom and dad, and visited. He's about 5 months old, the puppy, and then we're like, oh, let's have a mini house visit, and so just to kind of like introduce him to the house. So he came over with one of his puppy mates, and siblings, and they kind of ran around the house, and we had a really nice visit, and it was just really enjoyable. And then they went home, and then in the morning, just as I was getting ready to wake up, I hear arf. And I never heard him bark while he was here. And I was like, I wanted to like hear your sound. I wanted to hear what you were like. And I had been thinking that. And then when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, he like spoke to me. He like gave me his bark so I could hear his bark. But I'm sure that once he gets in the house, we're going to have some fun experiences with telepathy, with little conversations.
So the bark was physical, but he was responding to your thoughts. That's how it was.
Yeah, the bark sounded physical. He wasn't here in my house
Oh,
anymore.
he wasn't
already-
there.
No, he wasn't here. He was already back in his own current living situation with the owner, and and I was just, like I said, I was just waking up, but I had been thinking the thought that the day that he was here, like, oh, I want to hear you bark. I want to hear you bark. And I never heard him. And then the next morning, after he had already gone home that afternoon, and then the next morning, I heard that, that kind of that sharp little, and I was like,
Wow.
oh, so yeah, so that was an unexpected experience, but I recognized the telepathy communication that the two of us shared in that moment. So yeah.
Wow. Reflecting on so Mahatma Gandhi considered his main teacher Leo Tolstoy, the Russian writer and teacher. Tolstoy lived over 100 years ago, and so Tolstoy. I just recently heard the interview of his daughter, and I was struck by the teaching essentially of Tolstoy, which she retold to us that he taught her to like people. That was weird. Like liking soldiers during the revolution, liking everyone around, just not being against them, being. So I'm translating it like liking moguls, liking non-spiritual people. That is super weird. I started trying to practice that, and it was sort of not easy though. It wasn't, and because you connect to them and you just see how everyone is essentially the same universal consciousness, but we are sort of work in one paradigm, and then they work in another paradigm. And from my perspective, they work in a very self-harming paradigm. But I'm not supposed to criticize them or even teach them. I'm just supposed to like them, and it's hard because it's painful.
I think you have a point there, but I think you were mentioning that too with the political, like the duality. And I think when you hit that neutral point, the neutrality to say, hey, you want to have this experience, which maybe I consider less negative or more negative, and you're having this experience, which I consider more positive. But instead of seeing each experience as negative and positive, for me, what's helped is finding the neutral. And I feel like I've always been like this, where people will be like, oh, you should be mad about that, and da da da, and I'm like, I don't feel that way. I've never like felt that way. And yeah, I may have been hurt, here and there along the way, or I may have hurt people along the way. And then that's, then that I feel like is forgiveness work. But I think when you get back to that neutrality, that 0 point, or, the center of of the infinity symbol, and when you can say, okay, this is low and this is high, but I want to stay in that neutral zone, that allows you to see more, that to acknowledge, that, well, that's their experience and they chose to have that experience, and I'm allowing that. I'm not going to contradict it, and I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to see it for what it is. And the same thing with somebody who's maybe having a more, spiritual experience than what I may be having. I won't try to say, oh, I want to be like that, or I should do this, or I should do that to be more of this. No, I have to accept myself with where I'm at and say, I love my experience, and my experience is exactly divine for who I am and where I am right now. And when you come into that neutrality and just say what is, I think that helps to, when you're looking at another maybe collective or a group of people that are doing something that you would, I think in the past, because of how you're raised and what you're taught, that idea of, oh, well, that's not right. And stop saying that to yourself, that, oh, that's not right. And to say, oh, I see that, I acknowledge that that's not my choice, but that's their choice, and they have the right to their own choice. That whole, free will paradigm, I guess.
Right. I need to take a couple minute break. Who wants to take charge, Shakti or David? Who is more really?
Adriana had a hand up for a while. Do you
All
want to
right,
jump in?
Shakti, I'm leaving you responsible for a couple minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, something I find so interesting is the contrast between the difficulties people on the spectrum have communicating on a day-to-day basis, in contrast with the telepathy experience that they have. And it even comes down to how they process empathy, and mind blindness, the inability to see a different perspective. And I wonder why a soul would choose these things sometimes.
I mean, I also think, like you, that we come into life over and over again to have different experiences. I have no idea if we choose it or if someone else is helping to orchestrate it or if it's a combination. But what I imagine when I ask myself that question is that there is a reason for all the different kinds of experiences that we have. And what is so clear in this Telepathy Tapes podcast is that these souls they're like angels. They're like these beautiful heroes in a way. When you actually go through this episode by episode, like I was crying each time because you find out a little piece of their personality and you realize how honorable they are. For example, one of them was trapped for a long time without being able to communicate, and his mom was in an abusive relationship, and he was telepathic, so he knew every time that abusive partner was going to attack or what they were plotting, and he couldn't do anything to intervene because he didn't have control over his faculties in the way that would allow him to do anything about it. And so later on, when he could use the spelling techniques to start communicating, he was able to like tell his mom that. And she just had this deep realization of what an evolved soul she was dealing with. Like what a powerful, loving, compassionate, beautiful soul was there. So, I mean, I think we can only imagine things about this, but I imagine that these souls who have, if they chose to come into this life and be a part of this group, who are super constrained physically and suffering in a lot of ways, and at the same time, they're given this gift of being able to connect with each other and have that support with each other. And then little by little, they're able to break through all of those constraints and they start to communicate with their families and then scientists and then the whole world, because this podcast was #1 in America, at least for a couple weeks. And it's like they're having this huge, powerful reach. That's enough evidence for me to say these are great souls and they probably did have a plan. I mean, again, just imagining, but that's it. I'm like, would make sense to me.
Yeah, the yeah, it's like what they experience on the hill is so in contrast to what they experience in a daily life. And I've been reading a lot more about neurodiversity recently. The thing that strikes me the most is the inability, like how they can hit emotional overload and the sensitivity, but at the same time being unable to read more subtle social cues in a conversation and pick up on the subtler energies and parse them to make sense out of a conversation. So to have this contrast is really interesting, but at the same time, I also think that just like regular humans, not all of them will be that telepathic, just like us. Some of us have more psychic abilities than others. So to assume that all of them that are nonverbal are telepathic would be an overreach. Also to assume that none of them want to speak would be an overreach, because there's a new drug called leucovorin that's helping a lot of nonverbal autistic people. And when they do speak, they are so happy, because I remember this one girl saying, I finally got to tell my mom how much I love her. So it's an interesting situation.
Yeah.
That's basically what I wanted to say about it.
I mean, it's so cool because I think, back to this idea of a spectrum, all of us have different ways of communicating. And I've been thinking a lot about how at my job, sometimes, for example, there's a pressure to communicate in a certain way when you're giving a presentation or in certain rooms. But at the same time, I work with a lot of artists and creatives. And so there's a whole range of ways that people like to communicate, and it's not all corporate culture across the board. And for me, that's not a problem because I speak every soul language, you know what I mean? So I can connect to all kinds of different people, and I don't need you to sound a certain way, look a certain way, or use certain words or anything like that, because I can pick up what you're putting down. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's something that we can all tap into, that we can learn from these autistic people, is like, how do we go beyond the filters and beyond, the methods of communication and get down to the soul of it? Like, what's really trying to pass between us, And I think that's where all of society could up level really quickly, is just letting go of our prejudices and letting go of this idea that only one way of being is the right way, only one way of communicating is acceptable, and trying to, instead of putting it on the other person, put it on ourselves and say, how do I get better at just picking up on everyone around me, the animals, the people, different cultures, different languages, different socioeconomic levels, and how people communicate. Like, there's a lot of really psychic, powerful people who are not in spiritual communities. They don't have websites, they're not out there showing off with their egos in any way, shape, or form. And they're probably way more advanced than most of the people we see online or talk to, because they're just living their life and they just have those innate abilities. And I think if we all open our eyes, we can see that all around us, and we can probably learn a lot about how to tap into our own telepathy through observing and interacting with those types of people.
Yeah, I typed the drug. It's interesting. Leucovorin. So whether they are telepathic or not, that's the non-speaking, the non-vocal ones. I assume everything is telepathic, except some people just are not there. So it looks like they are this telepathic autists. They have two minds. One is the local body mind, and another one is higher mind. And this higher mind cannot control the body, so the local mind is in control, and usually it's very animalistic and very weird. Sometimes it's just clumsy but nice, but sometimes it's aggressive, like animal aggressive, and self-destructive too. So there is a lot of anger, which could be their own anger, or it could be they're picking up from surroundings. Like I see that in many pairs, like mother-child or usually mother-child, mother is pretty much as extreme as a child. So when the child is autistic, the mother is extremely controlling. And that is possibly a survival thing, but in one of the episodes of telepathy tapes and talk tracks, you can hear them actually being really angry. Like somehow hid it carefully, but then in one episode they just speak up their minds, and these are angry people. So not like us, we are like sweet and we are against anger, we are dumping our anger, but they are in control in anger, and you can see in videos they're pretty tough with the kids, like pushing them, forcing with the willpower, like not even touching, but willpower. They're pushing them. Be telepathic. Do it. Speak up. Type it. I don't think they can type without actually push from someone. So the willpower from solar plexus is pushed to make them speak. And then their idea is that their higher mind is always telepathic, but then how frequently it actually lands in the body. And you can see that in autists, and actually you can see it in Alzheimer people with kind of being absent-minded. So there is a body that can function, it can eat, do basic functions, can even drive a car, but the soul is not there. It's more like lower mind in Alzheimer people. But then when they still have to like really connect to people, then they're not there. But then you can see if it becomes interesting, they come in. The higher soul comes in, and they kind of have periods of actually being there. And the same thing I saw in. I had very limited communication with autists, but like strong, non-functional autists being taken care about. And you can see he's not there, but then there is like lower mind there, and then there is switch, and he's there, maybe not speaking, but he is there, very attentive, and actually communicating with you, and then again he disconnects. So it's like flipping back and forth. And now looking at ourselves, I can see that lower mind too. And usually I just taught my lower mind to speak. And this lower mind speaks like, I'm tired, I feel bad, I need water, I need to that. So my lower mind speaks to my higher mind vocally. It's super fun listening to myself speaking, but it speaks to me vocally, like, and then I understand what he needs. So my body, actually, I taught my body to speak. That was useful. And but that higher one is not telepathic in a way, and I wonder what blocks me from being telepathic. I can continue speaking, or do you want to interrupt and actually discuss things?
I want to ask a question about this because I think it's really interesting, this question of what is blocking us from being telepathic. Because have any of you watched this TV series called Severance that's out right now? It's like a sci-fi story, but the basic premise is that people cut apart their mind so that their workday mind never remembers their life outside of work, and their life outside of work never remembers what they did at work. And
Oh,
so
that's
it's
females.
It's what?
Females, that feminine trait. Males, like I see my male scientists, they talk about science at home, and female scientists, they switch.
Yeah, but it's like these sci-fi stories, I think, are exploring these big questions that we're all asking about consciousness. And it reminds me a lot of like, why don't we remember our past lives? Why do some people, but some people don't? Or why can't we easily understand what goes on before and after this life, you know? And in the show, in the story, you watch these people starting to kind of wake up to this awareness that something weird is going on, and I'm starting to have flashes of this other version of me or this other reality of me. And then I haven't gone very far, so I don't know where it goes, but I'm imagining it's going to build and they're going to reconnect those two severed pieces. And I kind of feel like it's a good metaphor or like a myth to tell the story of what we're all doing is like we're kind of bifurcated in some way when we come into this reality. And a lot of us are on this path of trying to reconnect with our higher self or our other past lives or other versions of us that exist outside of the physical. And in the myth of this sci-fi story, there's actually a physical device blocking people because they had this procedure, there's like a chip in the middle of their mind. But for us, we're like, oh, is it the pineal gland? Oh, is it too much fluoride? Oh, is it some evil entities that don't want us to remember because we're in a prison planet? Or, people come up with all these different theories because we're all trying to answer that same question, what is blocking us? And I really wish I knew.
So I
Right.
learned about this through channeling.
Uh-huh.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Max.
Go ahead.
So we learned that it's called the veil of transgressions, and it's actually in place to restrict us from remembering all of our other lives, from remembering our soul family and all the beings that love us more or less, so we can have this lower dimensional, third dimensional experience. Otherwise, because like I noticed that mine was just starting to go up just recently, and I wake up every morning at like 3 a.m. and just be living in a completely different life.
Me too, huh? Go ahead.
So that's probably happening for you as well, Max. And but it's just up a little tiny bit. I'm grateful that it's not up all the way, because if it was, like, what is David? Who am I? Like, how do I, like, there's many questions that I would have if I remembered all of my lives and all the events that are happening in all those lives. I wouldn't have a linear life. I wouldn't be a linear being anymore. I'd be a quantum being. And I don't know if my brain's ready for that yet. So it's
Ah.
it's a step-by-step thing we have to go through, I think.
Yeah, Adriana, huh?
So, one of the things I think that veil provides for us is freedom from our past transgressions. In a recent exploration of one of my past lives, I found out why I have a heavy sense of responsibility in this life is because I shirked a responsibility in a past life. And I made a point of not asking what it was, because if I remembered, and this is my point, if I remembered all that stuff, the sense of guilt and whatnot of all of my past stuff would really be a lot to cope with and probably hinder my ability to focus on what I want to do in this life.
100%.
That's so interesting because it makes me think that we need to mature on a spiritual, emotional level to be able to handle that kind of guilt and still move through it and keep going in order to get to that next level of psiability. And some other people have this theory too. So like in this very life that we're living now, we've all made mistakes and done things that were not good. But when you're like 2 years old, you can be a little evil dictator and everyone's going to forgive you because you're just a 2-year-old and you're just learning your power, you know what I mean? And you're raging against the world and doing all this stuff. But then later you're a teenager and you do something bad and you carry a little more guilt with you for longer. And if you're an adult and you do it, it can be so intense that people can crumble under that pressure and maybe they don't even want to live anymore or they can't really function. But the people who can get through that with courage and love and acceptance for what they've been through, they really evolve and those become the great souls. So I think in order for us to access more beyond that veil, we have to be able to accept that we have done all these things and been all these things. And maybe that's not the worst thing ever, maybe there's like a way to get into like peace with all of that.
Okay, Wendy.
Yeah, there's a concept that we have all been everyone and done everything. We have both murdered and been murdered and so on. So, and it generates forgiveness towards ourselves and others.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I was kind of going to touch on was, a lot of times within our spiritual communities, we'll call it doing our shadow work. And when you can look at, that dark side in addition to your light side and finding once again that balance point of, okay, I have been all of these negative things, what you would consider a lower vibration, lower frequency, and I've more than likely been all of the higher things. And it's making that conscientious choice to find those parallel lives where you're connecting in that is a frequency match to what you're currently wanting to experience in this life, in this now. So for example, if, so we're talking about the telepathy. So if you're wanting to, tap more into your telepathy, that during a meditation, you could have the focused intent on, since, all the parallel nows are now, because it's, it's all in that vortex of, it's not a linear timeline, it's a circular timeline. And if you can tap into that, past life that you were, that had that positive connection with your telepathy, that you can make that connection, and that between the two of you having that, which is so funny to say out loud, but in my mind it all makes sense. But if the two of you, the other life of you as another individual who also had a strong telepathy, and you in the now, sitting here saying, okay, I am going to focus on my telepathy, and I want to connect in with, my other self who also has had that experience, and help me strengthen and learn how to be more effective and more understanding with that. But the other thing too, talking about the shows, there was a show that I watched recently where Earth people had traveled to this planet, and the men on the planet, they called it the noise or something. The men on the planet, all of their thoughts were put out, and everybody could hear their thoughts. But the women weren't able to their thoughts weren't being it was only the men that had the noise of, their telepathic, their thoughts were being transmitted out so that everybody could hear them. And so, one of the young men in the show was, always, you could hear him saying to himself, like, he'd repeat his name, So for me, it'd be like, I am Wendy Napolitano, I am Wendy Napolitano, so he'd like repeat his name. So to try to like not think his thoughts so that other people could read his thoughts. And then all of a sudden it would pop out like, oh, you're really cute. Oh, I'd like to kiss you. Because of this, this girl that had come into the scene. Anyway, it was.
So what was the show name?
I
That's so
can't
cool.
remember what it is, but I think it was on Netflix.
Spider-Man's
Wendy,
in it. The young lad from Spider-Man.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
but
going to
it
say,
was-
they talk about that exact technique on the telepathy tapes, because the teachers who are working with the kids who are telepathic, they don't want the kid to get the answer to the question out of their head before it's time. They want them to actually do their work. And so the teachers will say pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin over and over and over again to kind of quiet that noise. And that's exactly what mantra is for.
Yeah.
That's why they teach that, is so that you can practice getting your mind track doing one thing on one track, so that it's not doing everything, so that you're not just spewing out like all of this stuff that, even though not everyone's picking up on it, some people are,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Let me share too. So on focusing the mind, apparently from quantum physics perspective, it's super important to stop thinking, especially to stop thinking verbally. It's taught in yoga, and that allows you to become a bit more timeless, at least to split like your consciousness is still here in the physical, but it has more connection to the higher levels if you stop actually thinking in words and stop thinking at all. And the technique in yoga is to focus on your breathing and then unfocus from breathing too, so you actually don't think at all. And I practice that nowadays a lot because I just realized it's therapeutic. It's weird because we are trained to think, and especially in science, you're thinking on time. You have to like perform as fast as possible, and that's what I do much of the day, like very, very fast thinking and thorough. And now I do it with artificial intelligence, so we are thinking together with artificial intelligence, kind of doing a dialogue. And I know it's smarter, but I have to do my part. Anyway, so it's possible to kind of catch yourself and bring to the center and focus on breathing. In the past, I was listening when I was driving. Now I'm driving and focusing on non-think. And I can non-think maybe while driving, maybe for 5 minutes with deviations. And if I go to like Reiki meditation, like laying down, I can pop out for any number of minutes, from 5 minutes to 10, 20, 30, an hour. So that's like easy. Like Nim Karoli Baba, a student came to him and said, Master, I'm with you like for 3 years, and why then don't you initiate me to the next level? And Nim Karoli Baba said, call this, Rajesh. Rajesh came to the room, and it was a sweeper, and said, Rajesh, meditate. And Rajesh immediately went to samadhi, became non-breathing, non-moving, just completely stone-like. So Nim Karoli Baba said to bring him to the room, let him sleep there, and then so they did it for a demonstration 4 times in a row. So just in one moment, you go from functional to completely samadhi, which is completely frozen. So that art of actually disconnecting is super cool. And I think that's maybe the trick, to be functional here and switch to astral or spiritual, timeless state, right? Next is in trips and meditations. Basically, I face dilemma. Basically, I face choices. What do I have to give up to gain the power of telepathy? And that's what non-speaking telepaths say, that we want telepathy to gain powers, and they hate it because it's not the right approach. You don't want something for yourself. You want to lose yourself. So to become actually telepathic, you have to lose yourself. You have to dissolve tons of your ego, and then in exchange you will become a servant of higher forces, and you get that power. So to get the power, you have to lose yourself. So you have to trade off, or at least a big part of yourself. And I'm facing those choices, like, what can I give up? And in many cases, I don't want to give up some of their exciting moments, like lots of them, like human values. I don't want to give up human values. I want to be successful and stuff. So that is a process, and apparently the price for telepathy went down. It's like, now you don't have to give up as much to become telepathic. At least you're not, the most important, you are not looked as much as crazy as you looked at, as you are not as stigmatized. Nowadays it's more permitted. For sure, the stigma is for sure less. Just a sec. Forrest Gump is a super interesting example. Like, Forrest Gump is a typical autist, and it's played perfectly, and the plot is perfect, and you can see what you can learn from Forrest Gump. Essentially, the whole civilization can move to become lots of Forrest Gumps. You don't have to. There are other types. Like, one of them is the Scent of Woman, the military officer. How do you call him? Do you know? The Scent of Woman? The Scent of Woman, the movie, the artist is famous. Just Google it.
I've heard of it. I just can't remember who is in it.
So he is like the other way, like super controlling, but as a military type, a fighter type, you still have to be connected to higher forces. So there is a lot of those, especially among caretakers of autists, who are in charge, who have to control physicality, but then they also connect through the other channel. And what was
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, yeah. And Sheldon Cooper in Big Bang Theory is a typical autistic savant. And when we saw it for the first time, it was, yes, it's us. There is so much recognizable stuff. And actually, I started copying him, especially in his disconnect switch. Like, he was super fast to disconnect. Like, So, you have to do that. His friend says, you have to do that. And he says, I don't want to. That's a social convention. Oh, okay. So that easy switch from one emotion to another, I think, is actually the coming future. We have to actually be able to switch emotions, like Sheldon Cooper does. And then Sherlock Holmes in British, what's the actor? I don't know the name of the actor. Anyway, new Sherlock Holmes like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. That's the one.
Cumberbund?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch, yeah,
something?
Cumberbatch, Sherlock Holmes. He played an autistic savant really well, so that's another one. He's not a very admirable one, but at least we are already exposed to those. It's not something new, but looking actually at videos of actual autists and I connected to an autist on YouTube with friends. I just started talking to friends, and friends started connecting to me, so I was able to communicate to an autistic adult my age, verbal but barely verbal. So now I realize it's a very high being. It's a very super high being, very like on a level of high yogis. And that would be my first main point to go in meditation. I would first connect to him, and then to others, and sort of like that's my now meditation. Connect to individual autists who I know, and then connect to my telepathic friends I know. And we don't have a lot of communication going, but that connection in meditation I think, is a super cool tool. And then finally, I had one perfect telepathic experiment where, with someone close to me, we went to some sort of meditation, and there was like one word, but very unexpected word, which I was able to send, and it was just done. So it's working, but you have to be in a special state, and that special state is losing control, essentially. Like for me, losing control is super tough. Like you really have to leave everything, like lose control of everything. You basically have to die for a second or for minutes. For a few seconds, you have to like really like get out of here. And when I feel now the waves of this losing control come into me, and it's a choice. Do you actually are you able to release control? And on the other hand, like a few years ago, I practiced trust, and as a result, I bought a used car, which was completely unworthy its money for $3,000. So I lost $3,000. So you actually don't want to like you meditate, but hold on to your wallet. You have to really trust in God, but how was the word? Yeah, hold on to your wallet. So yeah, please.
There's a great technique called the star meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's surrender, trust, allow, and receive. I
Mm-hmm.
find that's very effective if you want to do some psychic work. So surrender is like you have to let go of all your expectations, all your worries of the day, all the things you have to do. Trust the process, and that it will happen. Allow is it you actually allow the process to occur, and R is receive. So it happens, and I find that quite effective. And it's just what you're talking about, really, Max.
To that I would add, yes. To that I would add higher goals, serving some higher goals, like subscribing to a higher goal. Once you connect, it's called in Russian, it's called egregor or egregor. Higher energy. When you connect to high energy that you like, then you trade off, essentially. You connect, you serve the purpose, the goddess, and then you become its agent. Go ahead, Adriana.
So this is an interesting meditation point because the whole thing of letting go of the ego and letting go of the self, because that is something that we only wear for a lifetime, what we perceive as the self, and that there is no I, there is only being. And when melting into this sort of meditation, allowing yourself to kind of melt into the universe, I found focusing or being in a state of not just trust, but love, gratitude, and appreciation really helps a lot. Instead of focusing on, I'm letting go of my thoughts, I'm letting go of myself, my wants, desires, or whatever. It's more focusing on where you want to be and allowing yourself to experience those emotional states. That's it.
Very cool. I'm now like a very devoted follower of Ramdas Nimkali Baba, and the idea of it's called subjective idealism and monism, where you realize that, and I think it's Atman, that everything is one consciousness. Everything is one consciousness, and me is essentially that universal consciousness trapped in the body, connected to the body. But it's still the same consciousness, just filtered out to little tiny Max, but it's the same one. So every other human is the same consciousness, and you recognize that universal consciousness trapped in all other bodies. So then any prayer, any spiritual work, any meditation, any gratitude is to who? If it's one, then you are basically just acknowledging that you're alone. You are alone in that. There is no one else. You're playing with yourself, and you reconnect to yourself. That's super weird sense in human terms. Like many spiritual teachers dislike it because it's very selfish, very egotistic. But on the other hand, dragon energy is good with that. Like there is nothing other than me, universal consciousness, being trapped here, and whatever you do is just for a dance. There is no goal. There is complete freedom, no obligations, no nothing. You can do whatever. That's liberating and also gives you a lot of loneliness. One thing I wanted to mention is, David, just a sec.
Sure.
Pain tolerance. The more you go into there, the more I experience pain, and it's like hours of pain. Sometimes it's very clearly coming from someone else, but sometimes it's just and you only can take it if you realize it's all an illusion anyway. So you kind of lift yourself up for no reason. Okay, I'm going up, and you go through the pain. Like just pain, spiritual, energetic. It's not even physical unless it manifests. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you could probably disassociate from the pain, change your frequency out of the wave of, the physicality, and that way you don't have to experience the pain. But regarding the dragons, because a lot of the teachers in the school are dragons, they actually talk this way because they realize it's just a game, that our matrix that we're experiencing is just a game. It's just your own personal simulation, and that everyone is essentially a reflection of you, and you are God experiencing all of that which is life. And all these parallel lives and realities and timelines is all just you experiencing everything all at once, all in the now. So enjoy it. That's what they say. But I mean, not all the teachers are like, none of them are malevolent or narcissistic in that regard. Like, just do whatever you want to anybody else. They don't teach that. But I could imagine a lot of dragons would be like that. Like, who cares? It's just a game, more or less.
All right. Time is up, I think, right? Is it 2 hours as we are playing? Maybe we started a little late, but I feel like we should start wrapping up. So first I want to check my sound. How is my sound? Is it loud enough? Is it clear enough? Okay.
Good.
Yeah. But I will do the final meditation, but first I invite everybody else if you want to do like final closing thoughts and organizational too, and self-advertising as well, like your website, blah, blah, blah.
I have an instrument to play for our final.
Yay!
And my YouTube is Shocks Talks.
Oh, right. Oh, hold on. Oh, I will.
How do you spell it?
I will spell it and show it. Just a sec.
So I have my nickname Shocks or Shock. Some of my friends. So I just did Shocks Talks because it's silly.
Did
and
I spell it
rhymes.
right?
Yep, that's right. Ooh, tuning forks. Yes, we're gonna have some.
No, it's missed. It moved around. Oh, now it's good, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's double. Okay. Anyway, what I wanted to say, to play music, you have to turn on original sound. Yeah, it's too hard. It's like whatever. Let's assume it will work next time. Before we start, let's prepare. I'll drive you through pressing buttons
Oh
to
no, I'm
enable.
gonna play an instrument that's right here. I'm just put the mic next to it.
Yeah. Zoom filters out music unless you turn off the setting.
Oh really?
I think you have
Yeah.
to turn original sound on. and
Yeah. It
Well,
takes
let's
like a
test
minute.
it. Let's just
Pick
test
up
it.
your
Tell me.
music.
Okay, go ahead. It filtered out. Nope, no sound.
Not working. Okay.
Dude, I can drive you now. If like, you can see microphone in front of you.
Yeah.
Right to it, like click that extension where you select audio settings next to
Okay.
the microphone. Go to audio settings.
Mm-hmm.
Down below audio profile, do you see it? Original sound for musicians, do you see it? Speaker, microphone, audio profile, two major headings.
Speaker and microphone.
Under that audio profile, do you see it?
Yep.
Under the third line, original sound, turn it on.
It's not showing me that original
Oh,
sound.
so under audio profile, there is no third line original sound.
No, it just says
Okay.
background noise removal. I could take that off.
Yeah, take it off. Should be fine.
It won't let me.
Okay.
Okay, wait, try this. See if this.
No, it's still not working.
Okay. Well,
Do you see on the top of the black screen, do you see something like filter out stuff on the top of the screen? No?
background and effects. No, that's not right.
On the top, no? Okay.
No.
So next
Oh,
time
I didn't
we
know it
will
did that. Okay.
you will how do you say update your Zoom to the new version, and then where I showed like first thing you do that in original sound in that white window, and then on the top in the black window there you have to turn it on again. So it double switch, and then finally you can play music.
Oh.
Yeah, we do it for the last 5 years, and Zoom is sort of but it's really good in filtering out noise. Like if there is noise around, you can actually hear the person, but it considers music to be noise. Anyway, David, your turn.
Yes. So my name is David Lotherington. I have a website called thefederationlight.com. I'm a channeler and an energy healer, but I'm focusing more on channeling and teaching these days. And my goal is to help humanity to make psychic abilities common for everybody in the world. So a lot of what we do for the last 4 years, I've been mining information from the gods, higher dimensionals and galactics and angels and all that. Trying to figure out the answers to all the questions that we might have regarding how to do this or how to do that psychically, and what is the meaning of life and the conditions of the matrix. We learn about alchemy and magic, etc. And so that's what I do, like 4 days a week. I just channel for you guys, and for anyone who's interested, you can join the school for a month for free. Just go to our website, send me a message, and that's about it. That's me.
Did you learn channeling from Human Colony?
I did.
Yay! So yeah, the story is that Human Colony started I spoke to aliens through Jim Charles in June, and in October we went public first time on YouTube, and people join us, and it's hucolo.org. I will show you that one. Yeah, this one. Join us. It's a channeling community, and channeling telepathy is the same thing. Just channeling, you telepathically connect to everyone, including people, angels, aliens, gods from other dimensions. In telepathy, you actually have to have a physical person down below here. Mediumship is about the same thing as channeling, except in channeling you sort of allow more of the other energy to come through, while in mediumship you stay in your body and you sort of speak to both directions. You speak to someone physical here and you speak to someone astral there. But otherwise, telepathy, channeling, and mediumship is pretty much very similar phenomena. So we are doing some sort of telepathy for a while. And Human Colony has lots of channelers, and Jim Charles is the central one, and he speaks every other Saturday on hucolo.org. Find us on YouTube. And David, you do you do private sessions? How much is your private session?
I don't do private sessions anymore.
So what's your business model? You just charge for sessions, public ones?
Well, no, we do like a monthly membership of $100 per month, and we have a mentorship program to. It lasts for 3 months. We have a few teachers in the school already, and they essentially teach you how to protect yourself psychically, how to communicate with your guides, a lot of techniques that have to do with psychic abilities, and we kind of give you a good ground foundation to become a psychic if that's what you're interested in, or to become a healer, and that just helps you get into the program. And then you really learn from the gods as we channel on. We have 2 classes on Sunday, 2 classes on Wednesday, learning about divine masculine and feminine on Wednesdays. And we have initiate level on Sundays and Wednesdays, and adept level is on Sunday.
So you teach telepaths.
Yeah.
How good is your telepathic success in terms of precision and ease of telepath that you teach?
So we don't work as much with precision as you would love. I know that you would love the precision part. But we really just want to get people doing the activity and doing it in a safe way, so that they don't get hurt, and so they learn how to connect to certain frequencies, rather than verification necessarily, because we can verify after.
So is this telepathy with physical people or with spiritual energies?
We work primarily with the Galactic Federation of Light on the Ashar Command. So we work on the Athena ship, and so we primarily communicate with galactics.
Okay. Who is next? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go next. So I'm a channeler and a quantum healer, and I do work with a mediumship group, and always striving to assist people. For me, my website is wendynapolitano.com, and it's on my name here, on my image, it should be there, but it's wendynapolitano.com. But I also take groups on retreats, and we're getting ready to have one in Mount Hood. It's going to be at the end of May, early June. So it'll be that weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll have a workshop on the divine masculine, divine feminine. We're going to be working on balancing, and it's something that we really are feeling called to do right now. I've noticed that a lot of my friends who are also in energetic work are also feeling this strong pull to balance the divine masculine, divine feminine. And so that's coming up. And then also I have another YouTube channel, Channeled Illuminations. And this is where a group of my friends and I get together. And Adriana is part of this group. And we will do light language, channeled messages, and we connect to all kinds of beings. The angelic realm, the elemental realm, dragons come through an awful lot. And of course, our galactic families, the Pleiadians, Mother Sophia, Source, Yeshua. So it's just across the board. I think one of the last collectives I channeled was The Land. So it came through with a lot of messages about love and caring for the earth and your connection to the land. But that's one of my channels. And then my YouTube channel for healing sessions that I've done with quantum healing are Wendy Napolitano Quantum Healer.
Okay, I can spell it.
Yeah, so that's my other YouTube channel. And then of course we've got our Facebook pages. Channeled Illuminations is a Facebook page, so you can communicate with us in a group there, and if you've got any questions and that. And then my other Facebook page, when I had done my event in Mount Shasta, it's called Lemurian Call to Action. And we've got about 1,000 folks that are joined to that Facebook group. And maybe it's like 1.1 at this point, but we would love to have you there. It's very high
Yay.
vibrational.
I like Lemurians.
Yeah, the Lemurians are awesome. I mean, they were the ones that first called me into like doing my retreats and really getting people to connect more. And they've always got me doing some kind of work that is, along the coast. So when we're in the Mountain Hood area, we're actually going to Portland, Oregon, and we're taking a day trip on a bus to the coast, and we'll be doing some work there with the water and the land. And then they've got us for the masculine energy going on a day trip to Mount Hood, and we'll be, working with our masculine energy there. And then our workshop is, going to be a couple hours. And I've got another friend who's channeling Susan Mulheron, and also Rada, and she just changed her last name, and my bad for not having it on the top of my head. Anand, I believe, is her new last name, as she's just changed it. But she will be coming and offering an energy transmission called the Love of Creation. And with that, it's an energy that will help you to balance and help you to go through any karmic clearings that you need to in a much faster and easier process. And then, of course, Susan being another channeler, we are expecting to get lots of messages coming through over that weekend. And then, of course, just having fun, because, what's life if you're not
Yeah, it sounds super fun. I want to be doing more of that. Somehow
I'm joining
I ended up trapped in science work. Finally, I'm being some demanded and useful and doing some actual work for others, like mainstream one.
My husband is coming on this trip, so he's just all about let's go and see what happens.
Right. What about my science? It's either one or another. I can't really split. I wish I could split.
I feel like it's a retreat. It's a weekend for yourself, and you take a vacation. Why not? Just go and enjoy
Vacations.
it. Yeah.
I work on all free time. Like work day, I work for money, and on evenings and weekends, I work for science. Actually, doing this huge discoveries. And it's
your work is important. You go ahead and you do
and
your stuff.
I don't know what to do. I don't know. I wish I could somehow automate it. Like I will outsource it to AI agent and then and just supervise it from the mountains, I guess, or the beach.
But we do have an Eventbrite event created. So I think if you do a search on Mountain Hood, Portland, Oregon,
What is the search? I'm typing, but I lost it. Mountain
Hood.
Mount Hood. Is it the name of a mountain or is it what?
It's a mountain. Yeah, Mount Hood. It's in Oregon.
Oregon. Okay.
Yeah.
And what else to find?
And I mean, you can search on my name, Wendy
Napolitano. Okay.
Yeah, but
Got it.
I wish I had it pulled up in front of me but it should be. But if you do a search on divine masculine, divine feminine, and Portland, Oregon, or my name, any of those, you should be able to find it on Eventbrite.
Got it.
Yeah, but it's the end of May and through June 1st, and then you'll be leaving that Monday morning, traveling back home.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and there's several of us gals who have traveled together to various locations, and so we've got this beautiful community that we're a larger part of, but we've been running around calling ourselves the Starseed Sisters.
Yay, star seeds.
So
we didn't discuss much of star seeds today, but yeah, that's super important.
I'm sure we'll be doing some kind of a CE5 event on the evenings when we
right. Yeah, aliens. Yeah, CE5s are now also permitted.
It's absolutely just. I mean, they want us to do more and more, and so we are.
Yay. Okay, Adriana, would you like to speak up?
I'm Adriana Shortino. I don't have a website. I don't have anything for sale. I'm a student of channeling, Buddhism, and sound healing, specifically biofield tuning. That's it.
Super
and I'm
cool.
a human and I love everyone.
Yay.
Awesome.
I guess we'll start the galactic languages and blessings and stuff, right? So I guess should start and then we'll see what happens.
Beautiful.
Go ahead.
Me?
Horror.
I'll go. Let's see. Druk shalemat emat deshka lem sumat shawa mesa eaka druk malemar shamk feyumsha lemats emashkum drukumashk enai sile emark. Every time you open your eyes, you should appreciate your life, your surroundings, your world, your communications, your understandings. These understandings bring you closer to God, your life, this essence that flows through you. This is your path that you are walking. This path is divine in order, and it's responsible for your creative choices, your experience, and your plethora of vitality and experience that you are having as you go through life. Enjoy these moments, enjoy life, and do what you can to express yourself while in the state of life. And so it is. Do you translate?
Whoever? I don't know. I don't have translation. They don't give me translation.
So what I've taught my group is you just need to ask and then listen for the words that come into your mind. You just set your intention when you're doing your light language that I will get a translation and ask for the translation and then just hear what comes. You may only get 2 or 3 words at first, but with experience as anything, with practice, it will come through easier and easier.
Take it easy, take it easy. That's just a dance, and you're free to do whatever.
Good job.
Beautiful.
They liked the dancing, I see.
Shakti, do you want to do something?
Sure, I'll do a Sanskrit chant because that's what I grew up with. So we'll do Gayatri today. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvaranyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Yo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll do some light language too. That was beautiful chanting, by the way. You'll have to put in the chat or have Max type what the name of that one was so that we can look it up. Lovely. Ata inyoronya shachiktiya na atakrinyat kdiya patatayenya thuyotoynya pache shunyoro nahayenya tanya huirana tache tuyenish athathinyoronya hirana apahishuha ha sha. Blessings, beautiful, dear, beloved ones. We thank you so much for coming and listening to this enchanting conversation, this beautiful dimensional experience of reaching out into the worlds beyond you for understanding, for celebration of those who many have deemed in the past to be challenging to experience being in their presence with lack of verbal communication, with lack of the ability to communicate sometimes and often in any and many forms. And much of this is due to the galactic structures, the DNA components within the actual physical being, and also along with that, the sometimes new experiences coming to Earth for the first time and not really understanding how to work in a body. And this is okay and acceptable because oftentimes the soul wants to come and have these broadened and expanded experiences. So we are very grateful for this conversation, for the love and friendship that each of you have shown one another today, although not having necessarily met everyone within this group, and yet being open to the broad expansiveness of these experiences. We do look forward to future telepathic communications, not just with this group or those that may watch in the future, but those who will be coming forward as they are stepping into these new, brighter, energetic light codes that are coming online at this time, in this time frame of coming into April and moving toward the end of this year will bring forward many experiences that the collective will say, oh, I always thought that was only psychic people that could do that. And they will find their experience broadened as well. So we are very grateful to you in this moment. I come to you as a Dhamma. Also, the toning that was given to you earlier was provided by the Hathors. They work in sound energy and healing, as does this channel. So we are very grateful. We are very grateful and honored to be in this energy at this time with all of you. Our blessings. My gosh, my heart is beating so fast.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Adriana?
Let's see if this works. I don't know if my phone's going to pick it up or not. So this is 528 hertz. Breathe it in. Let it vibrate through your body. It'll clear you out and balance you a bit. And then this one creates the Schumann resonance. Is that one coming through?
Only telepathically. I mean, aren't we in the telepathic webinar?
Okay.
Don't feel the lead out, so you have to guess.
Not hearing
Yeah,
it with
that
my
one
ears, but
doesn't
we were
pick up,
getting
but
the
that's all
telepathic.
right. I'll do some light language, or I'll try. Like I said, I'm a student, but I think it's good to be brave and try, and that encourages other people to get over themselves. Okay.
Okay.
Do not be afraid to see the lights within yourself. Carry your heart a little higher and let go of the fear. Fear is not yours. It is an illusion. It is temporary and passing. Feel the strength of your own breath and your own vitality. Come back to the center of yourself and realize that you are both yourself and one with all things. There is no contradiction. We are just simply a leaf on a tree, and that is beautiful. Celebrate all that you are. Much love.
Much love. So I think we are pretty much done. So you can find me at maxrempel.com, and if you want to be included in invitations, just write to me, and you can also connect to me on WhatsApp. That's my number on the screen, 585-705-1400. I'm lately very interested in connecting to Latvia, and if anybody is from Latvia, please connect to me. I would be interested in visiting there. So that's, I think, our third or fourth webinar on discussing the telepathy, and I think we'll be doing it more, and especially because we're so wonderful guests, it's so much easier to do when you're talking to each other instead of talking to the black screen, hoping that somebody will listen. So I'm publishing it on hucolo.org and Hucolo channel on YouTube. So join us there. But to subscribe and invitations, go to that. Email me, please. In the past, we were just publishing our links openly, but nowadays with tensions and bots, it's impossible to. It's possible, but you have to be way more sophisticated to fight off bots. So it's just easier to only have a list and send the link to trusted people. And on the site maxrempel.com, I sometimes post the link, so you can just visit there, and there will be an announcement when we meet next time. Actually, I probably know when we meet next time, so let me just open the calendar. Any more announcements, any more questions, any more topics?
I just want to say thanks for having me, Max. It was great to receive the email, even though it may have happened from an older email list. I appreciate it all the same.
So it worked, actually. Yeah, I just revived the old list from many years ago. So the next one is on April 26th, Saturday. So end of April, Saturday. And it'll be pretty much the same thing. Same time, we start at 8:35 San Diego time, and plus 3 hours, it would be 8 plus 3, 11:35 New York time. And join us there, and yeah, come and let's talk about telepathy and connect. And yeah, by the way, whoever listens, connect to me telepathically. Don't assume that I have to be like in a special state to accept it. I'm accepting messages. If you message me at some time and I go meditate later, I hope it will jump time and get to me. So, and I will send you, if I hear you, I will send a message back. So that's my way of taking it. Like, let's just meditate and see what comes and reply to that. We are all universal consciousness, just trapped in multiple bodies. That's all that is. And we are shifting into the society and reality and dimension where telepathy is just a commonplace. It's normal. Everybody is telepathic now, especially children, especially animals, especially plants, especially the ocean. So we're just catching up. So have a good day, and I will turn off the broadcast and we'll chat a little bit offline. Goodbye.